Hi, it is my pleasure to interview a composer from Colombia. She's name is Carolina Noguera. Please, maybe just give me some introduction about yourself.
Right, I'm Carolina Noguera. I'm a composer from Colombia. I was born in Cali in 1978, so I'm 43. And I'm currently working as a composer. I receive commissions from different institutions and musicians, but I'm also the head of composition department at Universidad Javeriana here in Bogota.
And Carolina, what is good musical composition for you?
What does it take for music to be a good composition?
Yes.
Okay. I think what I expect from a composition or any music in general is that it shakes my soul, tells me something about myself, my relationship to the world. Um, so it can be really any music, but if we are going to focus on contemporary music or classical music or whatever, I think for me a good composition is a composition that believes in itself, that is not trying to please anyone, but just believes in itself, is truthful, and is visceral. That takes for me to be a good composition.
And can you give some example recently? Some kind of composition, what you have heard, and which corresponds to those criteria which you mentioned?
Composition from other people?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. For example, Fury by Rebecca Sanders. When I listen to it, I really sense the fury, her fury, my fury, and the fury in general. And I think the music believes in the fury and is getting stronger when the music is developing. So for me, that's a good composition.
And maybe just looking on yourself, right? What is, let's say, your musical idea or your musical signature, which you like to, which you, which you develop, or you always to return into your music?
Um, I think the musical idea comes from homesick. I I left Cali when I was 18 or almost 19, and I was happy because I was coming to the best university in the country. So I just had that in mind that I wanted to get to know other musicians and expand my boundaries, etc. But after a while, I felt that this city is very cold and a little bit distant, and I became, I guess, homesick. But when I go to Cali, I don't feel relief. So I think it's a nostalgia not from the place itself, not from Cali, but from the childhood. So I think that's with me all the time, trying to understand why did I feel strange when I was a child, because I felt strange when I was a child. So I tried to go back imaginary in time and try to cure that child. Um, and I also have imaginary conversations with Giorgio Ligeti, something like that, because I've read his papers and his confessions of how was he scared when he was a child. He was scared of insects. He was scared of being alone. So basically, his language is going to that net of spiders and going to those horrible insects. And he goes there and he looks at them closely and is like, I'm not scared of you. I want to feel the beauty in you. So I try to do the same. I try to go to what was strange for me, or what is still strange, and I try to see it closely and try to discover what scares me, and I try to contemplate it and to observe it and to study it, to find the beauty in what is scary.
And this is like personal factor in your music, which influence your music. But do you think there is some kind of, let's say, Columbian factor which influence your music as well?
I don't know. Well, what was close to me when I was a child, and what sometimes is close to me right now, is traditional music from rural and from the countryside, popular music, let's say. Sometimes it is close, and when I was a child, and even now, when I listen to it, I don't understand it. I don't understand why people are so happy. Um, so I try to go to that strangeness and that distance that I have from that happiness, and I discover there is selfishness in that joy. I discover there are things that I find that are not fair, and I embrace that sense of uncomfortability, of being uncomfortable, and I try to dig deeper into that feeling. So sometimes um, there are sounds of for instance, the piece at the Norwegian, there are sounds of Rajadeña, for instance. It's a typical dance from a region that is close to the Magdalena River. My grandma is from there, and I never understood my grandma, and I never understood the female tradition in my house. I don't even understand it in my mom. Sometimes I don't even understand it in myself or society. So I try to go there because my grandma is from that region, and because in those songs they laugh about women, about liberal women. So it's like people expect a woman are in a certain way. I don't know, very good wives or very good mothers or something, but they are eliminated from their own desire. So I try to go there because I find it uncomfortable for me, a little bit unfair, but I try not to ignore it or judge it, but I just try to see it closely to cure my sense of strangeness, I guess.
And when I listen to your music, right, I have a feeling there's a lot of, let's say, of contemporary Western music, right? So is it rightly correct that you're a composer which like still using like contemporary Western languages, but mix them fuse with some kind of local music or local from local inspirations?
Yes, I mean, I like written music. I like to imagine the sounds from that can be born from written music. So I like to write music, and I like the tradition of writing carefully everything that's going on. So in European Western classical music or contemporary music, there is this there is this way of writing everything. I mean, spectral French music, you find that all the harmonics are written down with all the microtonals, inflections. That's something that happens in minimalistic music. You can hear all the microtonals, harmonics, and everything, but it's not written. I like the music that is written because I think that writing is a way of being aware of everything. It's a way of observing carefully everything that's going on. So I like the tradition, and I've studied the pieces from that repertoire, and I've studied those composers. Um, but I think I need to write, and I think I need to make the music that comes really from me, from my own self, from my soul, because I do have the need of cure this sense of strangeness and uncomprehension and solitude. So I use these songs from contemporary Western music because they have helped me to connect to myself. I mean, the noise and the fury and the dark sonorities, I have found home there, even more than in traditional local popular music from Colombia. So I try to build up myself with this mixture.
Yes. So you are like so your musical soul lives in Western contemporary music, right?
It's not so clear. There is a part of me that feels at home in Britain, for instance. I lived in Britain for 5 years. So there's a part of me that feels home and feels safe and feels okay, everybody respect each other here. But when I'm there, I don't feel I belong. So it's complicated. I mean, it's kind of ambiguous because there's a part of me that really feel connected to the music and maybe that tradition, but there's a part of me that is missing when I am fully in that tradition. So I need all the, I don't know, all the unsafeness and insecurity and maybe even noise of dancing Colombian music.
Can you just explain? Can you give some example of your music when these two like merge, right? This Colombian dance and local sounds with Western contemporary music. Can you give some example of your works, right?
I have the piece I told you about, the one that was premiered at Dono, Michigan. Well, I already talked about that piece. I have my third string quartet, for instance. It was a commission from the Central Bank of Colombia, and it was a commission to write the string quartet to be premiered by the Otima String Quartet. And this is what happened with that piece. I always felt that the violin in general, it was a sound very perfect and very sophisticated. And I didn't feel attracted by that sound because for me it was too bright and too beautiful to be true, something like that. And I felt it represents a fine way of living, a richness that I don't have and that my country doesn't have. So for me, it was like I wasn't interested into that. Um, it represented the, I don't know, imperial values, because you don't get to do something so perfect if you don't have the medium, the, you know, the financial medium to spend all that time playing the violin, to spend all that time making and building up those instruments. So I really felt like there was something that wasn't really good for me. But I had the chance to get to know the violin playing, the tradition from peasant Afro-Colombians in the mountains in the Cauca, which is a region from where my father comes from. And I am very connected to that region because I used to go there all my holidays when I was a child, and I still do. So I got to know this tradition by a musicologist from the University of Cauca, Paloma Munoz, and she has lots of material, books and videos and documentaries from this tradition. And when I listened to this violin, I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect violin. And then I got to know that these people, when they were slaves, they were not allowed to play the violin. So they were watching in secret and trying to, and say they built up their own violins by a different tree, a different wood, and they tried to imitate it, but nobody could know. So it was every time a secret. So they kind of developed their own way of playing the violin, their own music, to celebrate their own religious fests. And when I listened to that, I felt a sound that was rough, that was truthful, and that was from someone who wanted to play in spite of everything. I mean, in spite of all the difficulties. Not was everything easy and all the conditions to get to learn, but everything was against it. So I listened to that when I listened to the vibration of the string, everything, all these things sound, and I find it fascinating. I don't think it's a sound that is trying to please. It's just a sound that is trying to vibrate on itself, to find the strength and to find the, I don't know, the love of sound. So I fell in love with this tradition, and I thought I want to know it. I want to be that. I want to have it in me or something. So I started to studying. I went to the Cauca. It's a region sometimes a little bit dangerous because when I was there was still guerrillas and paramilitaries. It was supposed to finish with the peace agreement that we signed a few years ago, but it was just a paper. I mean, there are still wars in that region. But anyway, I wanted to go. My dad always, I don't know, helps me with these crazy ideas that I have. So I went there with him, and I got to know all these people. I went to the parties. I was a bit scared, but I was really interested in getting to know that. So I recorded everything on my mind. I didn't even know how to record anything. So I recorded everything in my mind. I didn't want to just to use them or record them or something. I just wanted to share with them and to understand my feeling with this duality between Western and non-Western, and between classical and music from I don't know, from a forgotten region. I wanted to understand that, so I was just sharing that with these fine people, these joyful people, and then I tried to rewrite when I was again in Bogota. I tried to rewrite all those memories and all those feelings through notation, through musical notation. So how does it sound? This sense of feeling excluded, this sense of trying to be in a tradition that doesn't want you. How does it feel? How does it sound? It has microtonals. It has a bow that is more like a stroke, like a really stroke altalone or something, because it's noisy. How does it sound? I was trying to make it sound. So I'm using some dances in these string quartets. In the first movement, I have some dark sonorities that are mixed up with torbellino. There is a typical dance from them. And also the second movement is like a prayer or something, a melody they have. So I try to write it and to make it sound like a lontano music, like blurred music. And then I mix it with itself with a polyphony, I don't know, technique. So I use the techniques I have from Western music just to try to understand the beauty they have, because it it um it makes me ask questions about my place in the world.
Go ahead. And what is your way of composing? From what you start and what's the stages which you go through?
How is the process, you ask?
Yes, yes. What is your process of composing? What's the
Okay.
start and what are the main stages you go through?
I have to feel intensely a wound that I have, and I have to be thinking on that and feeling that, and then I got like a general picture. Okay, or how does it sound, this bound, and how does it sound, and what kind of sound can represent it. So I start writing in paper little things when I'm walking. So at the beginning, I just need to understand what is my problem, let's say, and to not fear that, but to try to insist on it and try to write how I think it can be represented by what kind of forces, or what kind of timbres, or what kind of complicated rhythms, because I think it's always complicated. It's always like something that is mixed up. So I try to write the mixture in all the complexity, timbral or rhythmic or whatever, and then when I have the material, I start to learn it, to sing it, and to improvise. If it's not piano, to improvise with wood, or with a violin that I have, or with drums or something, to understand more the internal forces of the material. And then I try to drink with it, to let it grow and see how can it go, and start writing in paper. Um, and then when I have it pretty much clear, I can start to write in the computer. I like to work with musicians closely. I like to, I don't know, try things out with them and see, if this sounds okay or not, if I need to change something.
And just looking on yourself, how your music changed or evolved during last 10 years?
I don't think it has changed much, because 10 years ago I was coming back from Britain. I was studying there at Birmingham Conservatoire, so I was coming back. And I realized when I was there, I started to write about homesick, about the music that I was missing. So when I was coming back, I realized this is not my home. So where is my home? Because I'm coming back to Colombia, I'm coming back to Bogota, but I don't feel home. And then I thought, okay, maybe I should go to Cali. And I went to Cali, and I didn't feel home either. And I was really worried, because all my friends who were from a different country that was not Britain, when they said, "Oh, I'm homesick," okay, I can go to Poland and then I'm home. If it was my best friend Joanna from Poland, or I can go to the States, to Alaska, and then I'm home. That said my friend Murphy, or they had really their home there, but I didn't. So I realized I was working when I was a child. I didn't feel home when I was a child. I only felt home when I was in the garden of the house. When I was in the garden, when I was between nature, I felt home. But that house doesn't even exist anymore, or something. So I thought it was an internal feeling. Being home was an internal feeling that was very difficult to achieve. That I will never have, and that is that contact with nature. I can't have that feeling, but I know it's close to Cali, so I know it's close to my childhood. So I know there was a moment where I felt home. So I tried to go behind that moment. I tried to go after that moment. Mm, so the music hasn't changed much in terms that I am writing about my childhood and what I don't have, what I haven't had since my childhood. So it hasn't changed much, but what has changed is my perspective, is my awareness of what is it that I'm missing. So sometimes if I'm peaceful, I can write about the garden. I can write about this mystic state of contemplating nature, but I don't have that feeling very frequently. So it is always mixed with with the traditional music that for me is a violent situation because I don't feel I belong. So and I'm angry of not belonging. So I write about this anger.
This is like some kind of musical, or this is like therapy which you go through, right? Or for
I
writing,
guess.
yes.
I guess.
And how this urge for home, right? For feeling of home, how it materializes in your music? Is it gives, I don't know, more alienation feeling, or I don't know, you have more specific terms which you use, or it's more, let's say, more, I don't know, more anxious.
I
How
think
is it?
it's just angry. The dances I write are angry dances. They're always angry. I mean, if I'm going to use string instruments, they have to hit very hard the instrument with the bow, or they have to do very strong pizzicati with their hands. It's always angry. My dances are always angry because I don't feel I belong, and because I think they are unfair. Because most of the time, these dancers and the traditions from these dances come are unfair to women. I mean, they laugh and they drink and they ha 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 ha. You just to do what I want you to do, and you're my slave. So I feel very angry, but at the same time, it is the music of my childhood. So I'm angry of missing it because I miss it, but I think it's stupid to miss it. So I have like a lot of confusion, and I don't know. I guess sometimes I am mean with myself, and I know I miss something that I don't like, but I need to go there and to see it closely and to try to understand why is it so unfair and happy but still dark. It's like a dark happiness or something. I try to contemplate and to see from closely and to represent it house. So I think there are angry dances.
And what is it like most used technological artifacts which you use in music, right? Is it? It could be software, or it could be hardware.
The technology, you say?
Yes, yes, yes. Technological artifacts, software, hardware. I don't know, some sensors. What you use the most, right? Which is the most important for you.
I haven't used much technology, I have to say. I mean, I have two pieces using technology. One is with for voice, for female voice and double bass and electronics with lights and projection of the image of the singer. So the technology here is amazing for me because it helps to see the gesture of the singer. So I'm using projection of images to see her mouth really big, and from her mouth are the sounds coming out. So that's what I do. I project her face through the whole stage and through the whole place. So that's one thing that I do with technology, and sometimes I use lights just to help the expression. So sometimes everything is dark when she's talking about something very intimate, or sometimes I want to have light just in her eye, or just in the hand of the double bass player. So I use this to amplify the players, basically, because I want people in the audience to feel really close to them, like almost if they could touch them or something. I mean, that's obviously impossible, but I use technology to have the illusion of being incredibly close to the performers. And I also have a mass, a misa, and this one is also for a singer, for a baritone. It was a mission from my friend from Malaysia, Chihomak. So I wrote this mass for him. It's for baritone, percussion, and electronics, and live electronics. So what I do is that I represent the solitude of this singer because he's alone and he's singing this mass that represents the tradition of all Christianity and all the Catholic world that is supposed to be many people, but he's alone. He's on his own in the stage. So I have the electronics to do some delays or some reverb to amplify it and make like if there were lots of voices from his own voice. But I like the tension that there are many voices going on, but he's alone. He's on his own because I feel that really the religion is something that make you feel you belong to a community, but I think you really are on your own. I don't really believe in this sense of community. So that's why I try to put into the stage this tension and this duality and this contradiction.
And what kind of software you use? Right, you said that that you're finishing your scores with computer, right? And then you said that you are using as well as you are writing electronic parts, right?
I always have help of someone because I'm not very good with electronics. So I always work with a colleague that helps me with that part, with the patches if we're using Max MSP or something, or yeah, I always work with someone because I don't do it on my own.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your fear as a composer? What you fear the most as composer?
Oof, I fear a lot. I am always fear that the music is not uh, strong, that the music stop believes in itself at the middle of it. I am terrified by that because I want the music to grow believing in the feeling all the time. But I'm scared that maybe it doesn't happen, and maybe the music is like, oh, well, you have the deadline, we have to finish, okay, wrap it up and send it or something. So maybe there could be a point where the music stop believing in itself, and I'm very scared of that. I always want the music to be faithful to it, and not get distracted to what people expect or what is fashionable or something, but try to be faithful to its idea. I'm scared
And
that it doesn't
when
happen.
you say that music should believe itself, right? You said it several times. What do you mean by that?
there is a there is an original strength when I start working on the piece, that the music is telling me something about myself or about the world. There is this idea, and it's always an angry idea or a painful idea. It's both, it's never happy. So I want the music to be consistent to that all the time and not get distracted, like no, don't get like, oh, okay, we should expose the material or we should have a climax here. I don't know. I mean, if the music needs that, okay, but not because it should be in a particular way or something that is imposed from outside, but to let it grow from inside. But it's difficult. So, I mean, it's not, I don't always achieve that. So I'm always, uh, I always fear that I don't achieve that
And now the
goal.
question from Francois Charan. And his question is, why you still compose, right?
Because I still have a lot to cure.
Got it. And now the question maybe more, let's say, not about you, but in general, landscape, right? Landscape of Colombian contemporary music. How it changed? How Colombian contemporary music landscape changed in the last 20 years, right? Within this century.
I think that there has been an important movement that mixes urban rock and this kind of music with contemporary music, or rock music that welcomes contemporary music into their sound. I think that's the main change I can see, because before there were only the composers that were writing the piano, like romantic style or something, and maybe if they were using Colombian dances, it was like a salon dance, you know, like a I don't know, like a music that sounds nice to everyone, and maybe you can eat and that music is in the background or something. So it has changed in this sense that the angry of rock music is present in contemporary music, but also the bravery of getting into dark sounds with lots of detail. It has go to the to urban traditions that mix jazz with rock with contemporary music. So I think contemporary music helps other traditions, I think, when they mix to it, to not be scared of darkness and to not be scared of the detail of noise and the detail of darkness. Because obviously, well, the distortion of a guitar is supposed not to be scared of darkness, but it's just the energy, but it's not the contemplation of the darkness. I think writing the sounds make you more aware of it. That's just my view.
Yes, yes. And how about multimedia music? Is this somehow evolves, or it's becoming more and more popular in Colombian landscape, contemporary music landscape, or not?
Yeah, I think a little. I wouldn't say much, but a little bit. Yeah, there are more interactions with multimedia.
And this Colombian music landscape is more, let's say, oriented to Europe, the western part, or to America, the United States. You know, there's different, some different new traditions.
Well, there are both, a little bit of both, but I would say more to Europe. I would say, yeah. I mean, there are some trends and there are some groups and that are very influenced by the School of New York, the I don't know Steve Reich or minimalist composers. But I think there are just a few. I think in general the influence is more from Europe.
And um, what about the new music audience, right? Is it who are the audience? Who are going to the concerts, and how it evolves during this century? Is it becoming less, or it becoming older, or it becoming younger, or it?
Well, there are lots of people in concert. That's amazing, but it hasn't been like that for the last 2 years. So it's difficult to say what's gonna happen right now, because well, right now they don't even let you in the halls because of pandemic and stuff like that. But before that, um, all the auditoriums here are always crowded. It's amazing. So I think there's a general interest, but at the same time, with pandemic and virtuality, sometimes people are very comfortable, and I don't know who is watching from streaming a concert. You don't have that energy of being surrounded by other people. Is really difficult and a bit sad, because I think the energy of being surrounded by others and watching, being in a concert is amazing. And I don't know how is it going to change right now. So right now it's a bit different.
And what is just your feeling? Where like Colombian contemporary art music trending, or what are the main trends, right? Where it goes, where this music evolves?
Where it goes, but there's an important movement here is the CCMC, the Colombian Circle of Contemporary Music. I don't belong to that circle, but it's an important circle. It has lots of composers there, and they are very connected to South American traditions and indigenous instruments, perhaps, and composers from Uruguay or Argentina or Brazil or Peru. So, and that's a very important movement. I'm close to them. I'm not part of the circle, but I'm close to them, and I like what they are doing. It's just that I'm not so unfriend to Europeans and to European traditions. I mean, my best friends are from Europe, and I am in contact with them all the time. So I am not so separated from Europe, let's say.
Yes.
But I admire what is going on with this circle and this movement of trying to connect to between South American composers and South American people. I'm actually starting to have conversations with the ensemble that was at the Norwegian Malesa ensemble from Bolivia, and I'm starting to have some contact with composers from Bolivia as well and Peru. So I'm interested in that. I'm really curious, and I want
Yes.
to
Yes.
get to know all this. But I am not separated from Europe.
Yes, but this is like, let's say, this trend is towards recognizing South American music, right, on itself, right? It's, let's say, less disconnecting a little bit from European influence and let's say redefining, recreating ourselves as South American composers. Yes, that's true. Yes, this.
Yes, is under the label of decolonial thinking. You know, it's
Yes,
related.
yes, got it. And can you just give some examples on what they focus on, right? So you said one is the instruments, right? So indigenous South American instruments, right? What else? How?
I think it's more about the sound. I don't think it's about the quotations or using some particular dances, but more about the sound. And some of these composers use lots of technology and electronics to amplify the sound and to develop into all the noise that is inside these sounds. But I don't think it's about quotating or something. This thing of the dances, I don't think they're interested in that.
Okay. And last question is how you see what is the role of contemporary art music in our society?
What is the role?
Yes. Maybe
I
it's
think
there is not. Maybe
no, I think it has an important role. I think it cured everyone. I think we are all broken. I mean, I talk about myself because I can only talk about myself, but I think really that everyone is broken and everyone needs this lullaby. I think every music is a lullaby in a certain way, and I think we all when we listen to something that we love, it's like drinking water when you are really thirsty. Is oh my goodness, it really softens up your soul. I mean, that happens to me when I listen to I Love Supreme by John Coltrane or you know or Rothko Chapel by Morton Feldman, um, or The Mass by Arvo Pärt. You know, I think is always um, a soft hug or something even a lullaby that you need, and I think we all need that, and I think we're always be needing that, even if it's dark music, because dark music is telling you I'm also like you in pain. So even metal or something is saying I'm angry just like you, so you're not alone, we are both angry with the word, or we are both whatever, but we are together in this feeling that we have. So we create this communion with the music and the musician and all the people who like the music, and it's very important because we are always alone and we're always in pain.
thank you very much, Carolina, for our interview.
Thank you, Sandris. It was a pleasure.